Welcome to TylerMedeirosTV. In today's video, we're going to be getting into some of the strangest last meal requests on death row. The first person we're going to be getting into is a woman named Marjorie Barfield, born October 29th, 1932 in South Carolina, but would end up being raised just outside of North Carolina. With an abusive father and a mother who did nothing to stop it, it wasn't until Marjorie would marry in 1949 that she would be free of her home situation and even go on to have 2 kids. Marjorie would end up having a hysterectomy, which would cause her to have back pain, in which she would numb using drugs and would eventually end up addicted. After her and her husband's relationship began to get turbulent, Marjorie would leave with their kids. When they returned to the house had been burned down with her husband inside. Marjorie would then go on to marry a widower, which would pass away in the span of less than a year due to heart complications. In the year 1974, Margie's mother would get terribly sick, but would have a full recovery. She would then get sick again with the same symptoms. This time, she would pass away while in the hospital. It was in 1976, Marjorie would begin to take care of an elderly couple. On January 29th, 1977, the husband would pass away to an illness. Around a month after his death, the wife began experiencing the same symptoms that Margie's mother had, which ended up in the result of her passing away as well. Over time, people associated to Marjorie would strangely end up passing away, and many would have the symptoms Margie's mother had when she passed away. Marjorie would then go on to admit to 6 murders she had committed, which inevitably would result in her being sentenced to the death penalty. It was November 2nd, 1984, when Marjorie would be the first woman executed by lethal injection, since the death penalty was resumed in the US in 1976. Before her execution, Marjorie was granted a last meal, where she would request a bag of Cheetos and 2 glass bottles of Coca-Cola. This second person we're going to be talking about is a woman named Carla Faye Tucker, born November 18th, 1959, in Houston, Texas. Carla was the youngest of her sisters. With a troubled home, her and her sisters picked up smoking at a very young age. By the age of 10, during the divorce of her parents, Carla found out she was conceived due to an affair. At the age of 12, Carla began abusing drugs as well as other things. At the age of 14, she would drop out of school and follow her mother, who was a rock band groupie. By the age of 16, she was married to a mechanic for a short amount of time. By the age of 20, Carla began to hang out with bikers, where she would later be introduced by a couple, Sean Dean and Jerry Lynn Dean, to a man named Danny Garrett, which she would start dating at the age of 21. On June 13th, 1983, while under the influence, Carla and Danny Garrett went to the apartment of the couple that introduced them, with the intent to rob them and steal the motorcycle the couple had been working on. Carla was able to enter the apartment with a set of keys she claimed to have found after the couple lost them. Carla and Ryan entered the bedroom, where they found Jerry Dean laying on the bed. After a struggle, Dean was struck with a hammer, then struck again by Carla with a pickaxe. The final blow would then be delivered to the center of Dean's chest. As Danny began loading motorcycle parts into his truck, Carla was left in the room, where she noticed a woman hiding under the blankets. Carla, at that point, turned her attention to the woman, piercing her heart with the pickaxe. The next day, the bodies were found when Jerry Dean's co-worker was supposed to ride with him to work. The co-worker entered the apartment when he didn't hear from Jerry, and that's when the crime was discovered. 5 weeks after the incident, Ryan Garrett and Carla Tucker were arrested for the murder. On February 3rd, 1998, Carla would be executed by lethal injection. Carla Faye Tucker was the first woman to be executed since the execution of Marjorie Velma Barfield. Before Carla's execution, she was granted a last meal in which she requested a banana, a peach, and a garden salad topped with ranch dressing. This last person we're going to be getting into is a woman named Eileen Carroll Pittman, born in Rochester, Michigan on February 20th of 1956. Eileen's parents were really young when they got together, having their first child in 1955. 2 months before Eileen was born, her mother filed for divorce. Eileen would never get to meet her father due to him being imprisoned and taking his own life. When Eileen was 4 years old, her and her brother were abandoned and left with their grandparents, who would eventually legally adopt them. Their life wouldn't get any easier though. Eileen would then experience abuse from the grandfather and would even get pregnant from someone who was close to the grandfather. On March 23rd, 1971, Eileen would give birth to a baby boy in a home for unwed mothers. Her grandmother would then pass away and Eileen would be kicked out of the house, where she then decided to live in the woods near her old house. Eileen would then go on to get into legal trouble before she fled to Florida at the age of 20, where she would meet and marry a 69-year-old president of a yacht club. The marriage didn't last long, and just after a couple of weeks, Eileen would have a restraining order placed on her, where she would then return to Michigan. Once in Michigan, she would get into trouble once again and be arrested. On July 17th, 1976, Eileen's brother would pass away. She would then receive $10,000 from his life insurance, which would only last her a couple of months of buying luxury items. Eileen would go on to get into trouble again multiple times. In the span of a year, Eileen would kill 7 men as she worked as a sex worker, and claimed the murders were committed in self-defense. In October of 2002, Eileen would be executed by lethal injection. Before her execution, she was granted a last meal of anything she wanted that would be under $20. Eileen declined the last meal and just enjoyed a last cup of coffee. Now I want to know what you guys think of these stories down below in the comments, and if you guys were in that situation, what would you have as your last meal? But I'm going to go ahead and close out today's video here. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, give it a nice big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. I want to thank you guys so much for all the love and support that you guys continuously give me. It means the world to me, and I will see you guys in my next video. Peace.